Hi, it's Birder Kelly K again. I'm still in the same cemetery in Salem, Massachusetts. It has a very nice pond. And here at the pond, I hear someone calling. What bird do you think that could be? Well, it's actually not a bird. The constant call you're hearing is an eastern chipmunk. Chipmunk is tucked away in the bushes here. And when you're new to birding, you might think that that is a bird because it does sound very bird-like. But one of the clues that it's not a bird is that the sound it makes is just continuous, kind of a monotonous chip note. And similar to those kind of calls that are just repetitive and never vary for the most part. I mean, occasionally they might vary, but you tend to hear the same sound. Is when you're hearing frogs. Now, frogs often can have sounds that you might think are birds too, but they have that continuous call like the chipmunk does. I mean, obviously it's a different sound or tone, but it is kind of a continual call that you'll eventually, as you get to birding, quickly recognize that, okay, that's a frog, and there's no frogs right now calling. Or, oh yeah, that's a chipmunk. One of the things I like to do when I get to ponds is scope out to see the dragonflies and damselflies that are in ponds. They're fun, and I've actually got into identifying them also. So when you're birding, you might actually develop some other habits and other tendencies to want to identify insects or trees. There's so many things that you can identify. So we're gonna walk around the pond this way. And it's pretty quiet right now. As far as, there are no frogs calling. There are a lot of dragonflies, but I'm not even gonna really try to show you them because they're tiny. Oh wait, there was one that just landed. There's one. But as you can see, they're pretty small. And it's not easy for me to show you while we're doing this. But what I find interesting is dragonflies, damselflies are very curious. If you observing them, they seem to want to observe you. And they will often land and perch on the ground, as this one, or on nearby vegetation, and just watch you. So it can be interesting to focus in on dragonflies, especially when you're having a moment where there aren't any birds, you're getting a little bored. You can look for other species that are pretty fascinating. And dragonflies are one of them. Lots of interesting behaviors that can be observed, and maybe you'll pick up another species if you're doing that. You never know when you'll find a new species that you have never seen before, or maybe even report a new species that no one else has observed in the area. So that can be exciting, just like finding a new bird species when you're birding. So you never know what you're going to find, but habitats that have ponds often are magnets for birds and frogs. You may find some dragonflies, and I always say that you want to see as much as you can, because that's indicative of good habitat, healthy water. When there's nothing, it's alarming. So the more bugs you see, the better. Although I know some people aren't into bugs, and they're not, they'd rather not have them around. But remember, they're food for birds, and they have an important role in the ecosystem. So you may find yourself becoming a bug enthusiast. So just going down the way here to the other side of the pond. So, I mean, this is so pretty here. This section, it could be in Central Park. It has old staircases. This one's a little overgrown, but still usable. And ponds. And it's just so peaceful here. I'm a big fan of urban parks, and unfortunately there's not, newer cities don't seem to put them in. So it's only the older cities that really have the grand old parks. Like if you're in Chicago or in New York City or in San Francisco, for example, they all have amazing parks. But if you're in Northern Virginia, for example, or the sprawl areas of California, all of them are lacking parks. So in situations like that, often the nicest place to be is like this spot here in the cemetery, where if it wasn't for the graves, you'd think you were in a high-class urban park. So I will be focusing my YouTube videos on different kind of places to visit and discover birds. A lot of people who aren't hardcore birders wouldn't think to go to a cemetery. Might think it's creepy. But as you can see, lots of cemeteries have habitat like this and are great places to spend some time, add to your bird list. And if you're traveling, if you just happen to pop into a local cemetery, you can add to your county bird list if you get to be a lister who goes beyond just seeing a species, and you want to start seeing a species in a county. So you have your life list, you can have an annual list, and then you can have a nation list, you can have a state list, you can have a county list, you can have a city list. It's all up to you how much you want to get into birding, but it's very enjoyable to do, and I find it relaxing, and you never know what you're going to discover when you get off track and explore different kind of places on your trips, such as this cemetery in Salem, Massachusetts. I'm birder Kelly Kay. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please follow me for more videos, and I will share more tricks of the trade that I've picked up on my own for the most part, just through experience. So you don't need a mentor to become a great birder. You just need to invest some time and be patient initially, and eventually you'll find yourself birding by ear, discovering species in unusual places like cemeteries and more. And to conclude this, I had a curious dragonfly who just popped up, and of course he disappeared before I could focus in on him. So just like birds, you have to be fast to see the dragonflies. So until next time, signing off from Salem, Massachusetts.